Oh, hey team. How are you guys? I'm hanging out in my office being a unicorn. Um and I thought it might be fun if we dunked on some young earth creationists because I'm not going to lie, that's kind of a favorite pastime of mine. Dunking on conspiracy theorists in general, but young earth creationism is just a particular bit of fun. Um, so giving this a shot. Maybe I could do a live stream next time. I don't know. We'll see how this goes, if it gets views. So I'm gonna try sharing my screen. Don't need to worry about share. Here we go. So here's what I found, guys. I found the World Video Bible Schools playlist on science versus evolution. And I'm not a biologist. I don't do the squishy science. But I can talk about how this universe formed, how the solar system formed. They talk down here, it's like, look, dating techniques. I can talk about radiometric dating all day, every day. It's like one of my favorite things, especially nuclear things. I like those a lot here. Make my face bigger so you can appreciate my unicorn hoodie. So we're just gonna play this, and I haven't watched this video at all. But yeah, I thought this might be fun. So also I'm getting a little squirrely, not gonna lie. The like double being trapped in the house of like COVID plus snowpocalypse, little squirrely at the moment. Anywho, let's play the video. Such graphics.
The following is a presentation of Apologetics Press.
That sounds like a real company. What do we got? There's a dude holding a skull. Jeff Miller, PhD. I wonder what his PhD is in. I hope they tell us. I hope it's like...
Come now and let us reason together.
Okay.
That's what we're interested in doing.
Let's reason.
That's what we want to do in this
seminar.
God,
you're not the dude with the skull.
To use our heads, not just accept a belief, whether creation or evolution, without evidence. Many argue that Christianity, creationism, these are irrational. They're not based on evidence. But that's not what I'm going to be arguing.
I feel like that title card was misleading. I assumed the older gentleman holding a skull in his hand was the PhD. Is this dude? Is he Jeff Miller, PhD? Let's find out.
This seminar, we want to examine the evidence and reason through to the appropriate conclusion.
No, stop right there. Okay, so here's the thing. Reason through to the appropriate conclusion. If you hear that wording, it's a very important wording because he is saying that there is like, we can't follow the evidence to where the evidence takes us. There is a conclusion. We already know what the correct answer is, and we need to make sure the evidence gets us there. So that little, just adding that one word absolutely is trying to precondition our squishy brains to think the way he wants us to think and get us to the conclusion he wants. I'm not a fan of propaganda, and I will point out when information control techniques are being used.
Seems like being unbiased would be a simple concept, but we know sometimes that's pretty difficult to do because we tend to want to believe what we want to, whatever's convenient, without having to feel bad about it, without guilt. So it's easy to become biased against anything that goes against what we want to believe and practice. And many are biased when approaching the creation-evolution question. Many are biased.
Self-aware. So close to being self-aware. It's so close. I'm sorry I shook my desk. Ugh, okay.
It's evolution because of a strong desire to retain their belief in God in spite of whatever evidence they may have been presented with, and vice versa. Many are biased against creation, religion. Religion certainly can stand in the way of what we want to believe and practice at times.
Completely unrelated. I didn't catch much of what he just said because I'm very distracted by his sideburns. Like that is a sharp line, man. That takes some precision grooming. Very important thing here though is that like I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure the majority of people of faith don't hold to like young earth creationism, right? So I think he said in there something to the effect of like, oh, you might want to be biased against evolution because you want to hold on to your faith, like not porque no los dos, right? Like you can have both. Like it's not that hard, my dude, my guy. It's just not.
God carries with it many expectations that we just don't want to hear sometimes. So it's easy to be biased against creation.
Like being honest.
We don't want to be that way. We want to be sincere. We want to search for the truth with open hearts, open minds, no matter where we're led by the evidence. That's what we want to do in this seminar.
Okay, my dude, I am here for it. Let's approach evidence with open hearts and minds. I am with you, my guy.
There are many positive proofs for the existence of God and the inspiration of the Bible. A listing of those proofs is not the goal of this seminar. You can see materials addressing those topics on our website, www.apologeticspress.org. In this seminar, we want to look at the opposite side of the coin, the main response to the creation model that is given by atheists today.
Do you like who he just, I mean, I get it. Like we answered this question in a different video. This isn't the point, but it's just like, guys, God's totally real. Like, and you can prove it. It doesn't even require faith, right? We've got complete evidence for it. Here's a video, right? But like, we're just going to start from there. We're just going to start. Okay. Let's bring on the science, my guy. Bring it on.
Response to the creation proposition. If you've been in the school system or read much over the last 40 to 50 years, the natural response is, what about all the scientific evidence which supposedly proves evolution and disproves the biblical model? Atheists, these are people who don't believe in God. Evolutionary theory is their response to the question of creation and origins.
So not really true, right? Like, let's see, lots of scientists are not atheists. In fact, the majority of scientists worldwide are not atheists. I'm sorry, I really should. That's a statistic I carry around in my head. I forget my source on it. So maybe don't quote me on that. I just remember it from like a seminar I went to in undergrad so many years ago now. But this story that he's telling is not a true one, right? This evolutionary theory is a specific theory put forth by atheists, by people who are not people of faith, and like with an agenda, with the agenda of responding to the question of creation with a big C and origins. So it's again, I'm going to point out when I see some dishonest communication tactics going on here, and that's absolutely what's happening here, because the story that's being told, one, is not really like strictly true, because that's not how science works, right? Science doesn't start with it is my goal to prove X is wrong, right? Not how that works. It's I'm going to like look at this evidence and draw a conclusion, ideally, of course, not all the time, but ideally without a separate bias or agenda, because once you have that like strong bias and agenda, that takes away from the, not necessarily the validity of the science, but like it definitely puts a really bright highlight on you need to take everything this researcher says with a grain of salt, because that's not how science works. Science should be unbiased. Humans are humans, but it really should be unbiased. So this story that he's putting forth here is nonsense. I'm also kind of upset that our PhD sideburns here has not told us what his degree is in. I'm a little upset by this. Mine, by the way, if you're wondering, if you've never seen me before, I've got a bachelor's in math and earth, atmospheric, and planetary sciences from MIT. I have a master's degree in meteorology from the University of Oklahoma, and I'm currently working on my PhD, also in meteorology, also at the University of Oklahoma. And I also have not a formal education, but I spent 4 years in the Navy teaching nuclear physics. So I have kind of a working knowledge of nuclear physics and basic nuclear propulsion. That's my background. I want to know what PhD Sideburns' background is. I'm very bad with names, so I'm not trying to not use his name. I've just forgotten it, even though I read it a few minutes ago.
It's proven to be an effective message today. We've been told that evolution is the scientific choice.
It's not a choice, my dude. It just is.
People who believe in the Bible are somehow unscientific. In fact, they're delusional, beholden to ancient myths, fables, and fairy tales. They're unenlightened, carriers of a blind, evidenceless faith. The well-known evolutionist and professor of zoology at Oxford University, Richard Dawkins, he said, "It is absolutely safe to say that if you meet somebody who claims not to believe in evolution, that person is..."
Blah, 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 claims Richard Dawkins quote, whatever have you. Important thing here is I'll quote my, try to paraphrase my friends over at Digital Hammurabi, Dr. Josh, when he says, like, okay, take what you just said about anybody who believes the Bible as like believing in fairy tales or whatever have you, and apply it to literally any other religious text, right? Or creation story, right? If I got up and told you about, I don't know, the creation myth of like the ancient Sumerians, I think that's the Enuma Elish. I watch a lot of Digital Hammurabi. Then most of the people like PhD Sideburns here would not, he would think it very odd if I was claiming that as like a factual account. So why is a similar document held to a different standard, right? Why is a very similar document, a similar kind of story? I'm not saying it's not like, doesn't have a place as a religious text, right? It's just like, it matters what that text is trying to do, and a like historic or factual account of events is not it. That's not what that text is trying to do, no more than the Enuma Elish or any, I don't know, creation myth from like Native peoples or any people all over the world, right? That's not what it's trying to do. So you're trying to make a story do something that story wasn't designed to do. That's all I'm saying. It's still not science. Please bring on the science.
Stupid or insane or wicked, but I'd rather not consider that. And that attitude is typical among scientists in the evolutionary community today. If you don't believe in evolutionary theory, if you believe in creation, you're an ignoramus. You're an uneducated hillbilly. The pressure is high, especially in universities, to accept evolution and reject creation. And so many are being bullied into doing just that. Well, is Dawkins right? Is it true that anyone who doesn't believe in evolution is ignorant, stupid, insane, or wicked? Well, I'll grant him that his statement might accurately portray some in the creationist community.
This is not science.
But not all creationists, by far. Okay. The true creation position is perfectly
skip ahead a few minutes and see if he'll start talking about science. Because I just saw a little banner that said something about Miracle on 34th Street.
Because they've proven themselves to be trustworthy. In other words, our faith is based on evidence. In this seminar, I argue that...
Okay, I know I just cut into part of that, but isn't there, our faith is based on evidence, is what he just said. Isn't there like a quote, a scripture, I think it's in Romans, don't quote me, that says like faith is like evidence of things, or faith is trust in things unseen. We're gonna Google that. Faith is belief in things unseen, right? That's a quote. Please work, internet. Please, I just want to live Google. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1, not Romans. My bad. So yeah, the point is faith is specifically not based in evidence, but he's like, nah, screw the book of Hebrews. Fun fact, Hebrews is often attributed as one of the letters of Paul, but that's not like modern times. It's not really believed to be true. Some people think that Hebrews was actually written by a woman, like a female leader in the ancient church. And welcome to all my random knowledge. But it was attributed to Paul because sexism is a thing, but they wanted to include the book, but they couldn't include it. This would have been like the Council of Nicaea. Oh, we can't include it if a lady wrote it, so we'll say it was Paul. But I like that. I don't like the sexism, right? But that's just like a thing. But I like that Hebrews may have been written by like a female leader of the first century church. Anywho.
In naturalistic evolution, the doctrine in which atheists must believe.
There is no doctrine.
It's actually a blind faith.
My dude.
Creation isn't. But atheists are right when they turn the tables and point at many within Christendom and argue that they have a blind faith. And this applies to both creationists and evolutionists. In the field of philosophy, what's known as the law of rationality is used to determine.
Let's only draw those conclusions that are warranted by the evidence. I like it.
When coming to a conclusion about something, it says that one should only draw those conclusions that are warranted by the evidence. In other words,
you need to fire your graphics dude on this one.
Or as the Bible puts it in 1 Thessalonians 5:21, but examine everything carefully, hold fast to that which is good. The Bible.
At least he's not a King James onlyist, right? That's a NASB, New American Standard Bible. It's at least a modern translation and not like, nope, 1600s, they got it right and everyone else is not.
By God,
we are like a third way in,
God doesn't
and this is
want
not
us to
science.
accept it without evidence. It can be tested and proved, and God expects us to do so.
Okay.
Now, if the law of rationality is violated, if someone draws a conclusion that doesn't follow from the evidence, that perpetrator is known to be being irrational. So, for example,
okay, my dude.
If a person sees two green sedans drive by and concludes from that bit of evidence that all cars are green, that conclusion.
That's dumb. What else we got? We're still not. That looks like a Bible quote, which I was promised science. Should I take my glasses? Well, if I take my glasses off, I can't read the screen, but the reflection in my glasses is kind of obnoxious. No, I don't have contacts. I should possibly get some, but it's fine. We'll just suffer through the glare together. Okay. God has left evidence. That is not evidence. What happens if we just go up here?
That the days of Genesis 1 were literal days and not some vague period of time. But when taken all together, there can be no doubt about Moses' meaning. Creation is true, not evolution. The biblical evidence that disproved...
And Moses definitely was aware of the theory of evolution. Okay.
Theistic evolution is not what I'll be discussing in the seminar, but we have lots of material at Apologetics Press which soundly proves that truth. Bottom line, if evolution is true, then the Bible is wrong. If the Bible is true...
Again, only if you're trying to get the Bible to be a chemistry textbook, right? Like, let it be ancient scripture. Let it be what it is. Gosh.
Evolution is wrong. There's no middle ground on this.
Yeah.
Second, believing that the Genesis account is not literal and somehow allows for evolution puts Moses...
This is such a bad take. This is such a bad take. Like, oh my, well, if the earth wasn't created in 6 literal days, then nothing is true. Only if you're a mythic literalist, my dude. So this is silly. I hope everyone sees why this is silly, right? Like again, just well, we're still not at science, so that's a little upsetting. And that's like, I'm not a theologian, guys. I know random facts about Hebrews and the book of Hebrews and other things. Is this just an introduction video? Because if it is, I'm not going to watch 30 minutes of not science. Let's see. What can we get to?
Darwinian evolution in the Bible are simply incompatible. The gap theory, the day-age theory, all of the theories that Bible believers have come up with to try to harmonize the Bible with evolution simply don't cut it.
Cool. Why discuss evolution?
There must be an explanation.
The primary reason we're looking at evolutionary theory in this study is because if there is no God, if atheists are correct, and I really don't like how they're conflating like atheism with science. Again, the majority of scientists are people of faith, and like this is not an issue. Like science isn't the problem, team. Science is the solution. Like yay science, and it just doesn't really have anything to do with faith. Those are different Different things, different words mean different things. These are different things. Okay. Key point. Let's go to the key point. What is this? Evolution is true. Science is going to support it. Yes. It shouldn't contradict it at every turn. See how they're priming you again? That's just some, ugh. Oh, no, it's a lopsided unicorn. Okay. That's some, in my opinion, insidious propaganda tactics right there, right? So that's a factual statement, right? But including the it shouldn't contradict it at every turn implies that he's going to point to it contradicts itself at every turn, and that shouldn't be the case. Therefore, no evolution, right? And that's not how any of this works. All right, more scripture. Maybe we should jump ahead. Maybe we should shift to the next video, team. What do you guys think? Let's give PhD Sideburns another minute.
Creation. The evolutionary model is in contradiction with the scientific evidence. Before I can prove that statement, we need to define what I mean by the evolutionary model. What do the evolution and creation models claim?
There better be skulls.
Well, first of all, understand that creationists believe in evolution. We believe that change happens on the earth over time. But we don't believe in the brand of evolution espoused by the bulk of the scientific community today. So in this seminar, when I use the term...
That's just like splitting hairs, right? It's like, we don't not believe in science, guys. We don't not believe in like adaptation. We just think that adaptation only gets you so far. Demonstrate it. Like, show me why. What limits things? Please tell me. Would love to hear it.
Evolution. I'm using it in the way many naturalists use it.
I'm a naturalist. Love it. I actually kind of wish that scientists were still called natural philosophers, because that's like a cooler title. Oh, I learned on Twitter today that in Finland, apparently when you get your PhD, you get a sword. I'm holding my imaginary future PhD sword. I want one for slaying data and dragons.
Materialists, naturalists, atheists use the term evolution as a catch-all word, and they simply lump the entire history of the universe.
Oh no, that's not a thing scientists do. That's a thing y'all do. So I am here watching a video about evolution, trying to talk about like formation of stars, which is different. Evolution is a field of biology. I'm not a biologist, so why am I here on an evolution video? Because they use the term incorrectly. So that's not, that's a thing they do, not the scientific community at large. The word like evolution is never used in like meteorology papers unless it's being used completely colloquially. Like, over the past 10 years, the understanding in the field has evolved to understand blah. Colloquially used to mean change, but not in the like specific scientific sense of one species, like, well, I don't of like biology, of things, common ancestry, all that fun stuff.
Word evolution. Others are starting to use the term cosmic evolution to give it.
By others, he still means only young Earth creationists.
Distinction, but I'll use the term evolution to mean Darwinian evolution or the general theory of evolution in conjunction with some form of the Big Bang theory.
Big Bang, not evolution. I was about to give you credit, PhD Sideburns. I was about to give you credit, my dude. Because you were gonna be like, I'm gonna use it to mean Darwinian evolution. And I'm like, awesome. Oh my gosh, we can agree on some terms. And he's like, but also Big Bang. Jerk.
So use the term macroevolution to describe this form of evolution. Now I distinguish that from microevolution. Microevolution, small.
A biologist friend or somebody in the comments might need to correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure like micro versus macroevolution is also a singularly young Earth creationist thing. Like, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that. Definitely this definition of within kinds, because kinds has no definition, right? Like, It doesn't have a scientific definition. That's not a scientific term. Again, not a biologist, but I know like family or species, family, genus, kingdom. There's a lot of steps in between there, but it's been half a minute since I took biology. All right.
Changes within kinds, changes in size, color, beak size, and so forth. That with the present kind remaining the same, that's microevolution. Microevolution has been observed to occur in nature and is in perfect harmony with the creation model. But macroevolution hasn't been observed to occur.
False. That's a false statement.
Requires a leap beyond the evidence to accept it.
And again, just making statements here, like not providing evidence, right? Like this is good. This is like, this never happened. And I'm just going to say that and not demonstrate it to you, right? Like you gotta do that, my dude.
So in this seminar, when I say evolution is unscientific, I'm talking about cosmic.
Okay. Let's look at the points we're going to make.
Or it has to be eternal. It had to have existed.
The universe spontaneously generated or is eternal. Okay. What else we got?
On the creation side, we see that it had to have been created by a non-physical being. Number two, on the evolutionary side, you have the fact that life had to spontaneously generate. In other words, abiogenesis is true.
He pronounced it right, you guys. That he does get credit for that. Abiogenesis is the process by which you would have like a biological organism come about from something that is not biological. Abiogenesis is a thing. I don't think we like know how it happened, but it's sort of kind of has to be a thing.
Whereas under the creation model, of course, it was created by this being that is outside of the universe. Number three, under the evolutionary side, you have all present kinds came about from simpler, earlier kinds.
Just say species, my dude. Just say species. Yeah.
So ultimately, a single-celled organism evolved into invertebrates, and then vertebrates, and then amphibians, then reptiles, then mammals, and ultimately primates, including man. On the creation side, we see that all present kinds, including all plants and animals, have remained fixed since creation, other than extinctions and genetic variation in those original.
Ooh, okay. Fun fact. In like the 1800s, there was a huge boom in like finding fossils. And it was a really, really tricky thing for some people to wrap their heads around the idea of extinct animals, because if an animal goes extinct, that implies that it was somehow not perfectly made by God, right? And so the fact that he's even just like, oh yeah, extinction has happened, shows like even just a change from, previous beliefs about like how creation works. So like the idea that this is what he's saying here is the one and only believable thing, right? One, it's not supported by science, and I'm like, the way he's made these lists is driving me bonkers, but I would love to get to something I can actually debunk and not just have to poke at like how he is making arguments and hopefully showing that that's dishonest. But also just I want to point out that like this isn't what he's proposing, isn't even how like fundamentalist Christians, like people of his own religion, of the particular sect of his own religion, have thought for long periods of time. It's just a thing. Okay.
They created kinds which have occurred only within narrow limits. New species, subspecies within created kinds can occur, changes in color, beak size, and so forth. In other words, microevolution can occur, but change between kinds or vertical macroevolution is not true according to the creation model. Number four, under the evolutionary side, neo-Darwinism is the mechanism for change across phylogenetic boundaries. Cool. Under the creation model, we say that the neo-Darwinism cannot account for the emergence of the planet's species. Number five, humans and apes have a common evolutionary ancestor according to the evolutionary model. Of course, according to the creation model, they have separate lineages. Number six, uniformitarianism is true according to the evolutionary model, and that governs how we view and date the earth. under the...
I don't even know what they mean by uniformitarianism. I'm scared to Google it, but I'll do it for you guys. Uniformitarianism? Uniformitarianism. So I was reading the dictionary definition that popped up. It's a geologic theory that changes in the Earth's crust during geological history have resulted from the action of continuous and uniform processes. Okay, let's... okay. Yeah, what that really just looks like is the way physical processes happen now are not fundamentally different from how they happened in the past, right? So if we have plate tectonics today, plate tectonics in the past worked in roughly the same way. The seafloor spreads at like an inch a year, maybe a little more. Sea floor spreading rates. Seafloor. Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, 3 to 6 inches every year. So faster than I thought. So like, I think uniformitarianism is the idea that like, it's probably about, maybe it used to go 2 or 7, right, inches, but it didn't go 500 million inches a year, right? So that's, yeah, I think just like physical processes, like laws of nature, right? Gravity works the same way now as it did a million years ago, right? That seems like a pretty basic concept, my dude.
Creation model, we have catastrophism being true.
Okay, what do you mean by that? We'll find out.
Number 7, the universe is very old.
It is. In case anybody was wondering, the universe is about 14 billion years old. Our solar system and planets are 4.567 billion years old.
Time is true. The universe is billions of years old, according to the evolutionary model, but according to the creation model, the universe is actually relatively young, thousands of years.
No.
Now, if any one of these statements is shown to be wrong, the entire model collapses.
Okay, so that's like saying if I don't know, abiogenesis doesn't exist, then rocks don't work. Like, come on, my dude. Come on. Use your words. I know you know how words work. Meh.
Because these statements constitute fundamental planks of the 2 origin models. Throughout the following sessions, we're going to look at each.
All right. I'm not listening to any more of your intro. Should we jump ahead? Can evolution get something from nothing? I really hope this is them trying to tackle age of the universe. And I bet, gonna make a prediction here, guys. I bet they're gonna say that the idea of something from nothing violates the second law of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics, which they are going to say, I have not watched this video, right? But this is, if they bring it up, they're going to say this. They're going to say that the first law of thermodynamics states that matter cannot be created or destroyed, which is not, my friends, what the first law of thermodynamics states. It states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's important to know that, especially when we're dealing with nuclear type processes, that mass and matter is another form of energy. It's a normally very stable way to store energy, but E equals mc squared, very famous, we can take that mass and convert it into energy, and we can take other forms of energy and convert it into mass and matter. So I guarantee you that they are going to reference the laws of thermodynamics. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't need to touch my mic. They're going to reference laws of thermodynamics, and they're going to reference them incorrectly. That is my prediction. Let's take a look, my guys. All right. Video 2, let's get their intro graphic again. Oh, hooray.
The following is a presentation of Apologetics Press.
Okay. You know what? Let's pause. Who is Jeff Miller, PhD? Who is PhD sideburns? Let's just type it in exact. Jeff Miller, State Farm agent. Jeff Miller, PhD. Who are you? My guy. Okay, Jeff Miller, PhD. Yep, this is my dude. Okay. Bachelor's degree in physical science. Bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. Awesome. And then a master's and a PhD in biomechanical engineering. Awesome. Yeah, very cool. So he's an engineer. That's great. I am not an engineer. I don't like making things. Well, I do like making things, but like, here's my, you see the hat I'm knitting? Ooh, such yarn. I'm not an engineer. I like science, not engineering. And these are different fields, right? Generally, engineering is much more practical. Science is a little more abstract. But if he misquotes laws of thermodynamics, I'm going to be real disappointed in you, PhD, Dr. Jeff Miller. PhD sideburns. All right, let's bring my face back over here. What do we got going on? What do we got going on, my dude?
For decades now, we've been told by the naturalist-dominated scientific community that evolution, not creation.
For decades now, we've been told by leading people who spend all day, every day thinking about this stuff that this is how things are. Look, guy, I don't know how to fix a carburetor. That's not a thing I know how to do, right? You know what I do know how to do? Know how to read some radar and weather maps, right? So me and my mechanic, we've got a nice symbiotic relationship. I try to keep him safe when there's tornadoes bearing down. He can fix my carburetor so I can get out of town when there's tornadoes coming down, right? We work together. And if we don't have this mutual trust of other people's expertise, right? I'm not saying trust blindly, but like accept it. And you have a PhD. You understand how expertise works, my dude. Okay. Let's play this video. Let's see what we've got going on.
Scientific choice, and that people who don't believe it,
scientific
people
choice?
who believe in the Bible,
I'm sorry.
for example, are somehow
no, back up. What did you just say?
People who don't believe it, people who believe in the Bible, for example, dominated scientific community, that evolution, not creation, is the scientific choice. And that people...
No, see, that's an intentionally chosen word there of saying scientific choice. No, it's the... It is the theory which is best supported by what evidence is currently available, right? It does not require belief. It does not even require choice. It is just acceptance of the preponderance of evidence. Okay.
Don't believe it. People who
doesn't require
believe in
belief.
the Bible, for example, are somehow unscientific, uneducated hillbillies that believe in ancient mystic fairy tales.
You made this point earlier. We talked about the Enuma Elish already. Don't recycle text from the last video. I already got bored of that one. Talk to me about universes.
A blind, evidenceless faith.
Blech.
In truth, the opposite is the case.
The opposite is the
case. With the evidence.
Are you going to actually prove it?
Why do the laws of science even exist?
Who wrote the laws of... My dude. Again, science, our collective understanding of how things work, is not like, I know, I, a person in authority, I'm going to make stuff up and you all have to believe it. Right? That's not how that works. It's not like I just have to follow these laws, I guess, because the science police told me so. It's about that preponderance of evidence. So like and whether or not we have a law that describes, like, gravity worked the way gravity currently works before Newton, right? Before Newton described it. And Newton wasn't completely accurate, right? Einstein later came along and was like, I think gravity's actually a little more complicated. Bam, general relativity. Or something to that effect. And that's right. So that's one, like, gravity didn't, the way gravity works didn't change from before Newton to Einstein. Our understanding of how it worked changed, right? So it became more refined with time. And that's how this works, right? Like, Einstein's work would never have happened without Newton's and the like 400 years of scientific discovery between the two of them. The work that I do in the Arctic couldn't possibly have come into existence without satellites, right? Without satellite observations. And without like mathematicians from the like the 1800s. I was about to say from the 1900s, and I'm like, wait, that wasn't that long ago. Anyway, so no one wrote the laws of science. This is our collective communal understanding of how the world we live in functions, right? And whether or not we wrote laws about them, these things still happen. Gravity doesn't change whether or not we wrote the law of gravity, right? My dude.
Where do they come from? Who wrote them? Without a lawmaker, how could they even exist? Humanist Martin Gardner wrote a few years ago, imagine that physicists finally discover all the basic waves and their particles and all the basic laws and unite everything in one equation. We can then ask why that
equation, why are there quantum laws, why does gravity work the way that it works? So we understand how gravity works, we can make predictions based off of it. But these things he's proposing, like, but why that equation, are not questions science is equipped to answer, right? And that's fine. There's like things, we have different fields for a reason, my dude. Like, science doesn't have an answer for literally everything, but it does have answers for like, how does this happen? Why is maybe a little like, so science doesn't have an answer for like, why am I here, right? It can't tell me how I got here, but like, what is my purpose in life? Science can't answer that. And that's what this is like, but what's the purpose? What is quantum mechanics' purpose in life? What is it trying to achieve? That's not a scientific question, right? And that different fields exist for different reasons. Like, it's fine. It's not bad. It's just you can't try to make it do something it's not supposed to do. Just because a car can't fly doesn't mean it's not a perfectly good car.
And why are there quantum laws? There's no escape from the super ultimate questions. Why is there something rather than nothing? And why is the something structured the way it is?
Which is philosophy.
Even if the naturalist ignores the little problem of how the universe came into existence in the first.
And before people like at me in the comments, yes, I understand that like natural philosophy and our modern understanding of science like is deeply rooted in philosophical like knowledge and things. But like, I guess I'm using philosophy very much in the colloquial sense of sort of the why am I here versus how did I get here, right?
He still has the problem of how the laws that govern that matter came into being as well.
No, we don't. We can just, this is what I have, this is how the things that I have work, and this is what we can do with them. That is science.
Why are there specific equations and specific numbers that describe how things work? Mechanics could create a universe from nothing before the supposed Big Bang happened, which he also believes in. But again, even if that were true and the evidence stands against it.
Don't just link me. This is supposed to be your science video.
See our website, www.apologeticpress.org, for
Don't
more
want
on
to
that
see your
subject.
website, Professor
Hawking
Sideburns.
himself still had to ask the questions. Did God create the quantum laws that allowed the Big Bang to occur? In a nutshell, did we need a God to set it all up so that the Big Bang could provide answers to those questions? The idea of a God whose existence would actually give him a reasonable answer to the problem, revealing his own bias against God, his lack of objectivity, and unscientific approach to the question of God. How could a law of nature...
Dude. Okay, come on. Please get to some science. Like, are you just gonna talk at me for like how many hours is this? I don't want to review it if it's that. Who's Paul Davies? Let's find out. Okay. Give me some evidence, dude. Give me something to talk.
Another famous atheist, a theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and astrobiologist of Arizona State University, Paul Davies. He's
just like to point out that those are 3 separate fields. So if this guy actually is all 3 of those things, then like kudos to him.
You need to know where those quantum laws,
yeah, that's where mystery is. That's where like science. Okay. We don't need to know why gravity works the way it does, right? To know how it works the way it does and be able to like do stuff with that. But if we want to contemplate the mysteries of the universe, like, great, let's do it. But that's a different thing. It's different. Okay. Questions from God. What is that section? Let's jump ahead. Gosh. So, okay, here we go. We're going to jump like, I'm not going to listen to him just quote Job. That's, nobody's going to quote, right? It's the part in Job where Job's like, God, my dude, why did all this bad stuff happen to me? And God's like, where were you when I raised the fountains of the deep, or something like that. It's very poetic and lovely, but it's a story. And it's a story from a culture that I don't live in, and I am not a historian or an anthropologist or somebody that studies ancient texts. I'm a scientist. I would love to science. Please let me science, Dr. Sideburns.
According to the McGraw-Hill Dictionary of Scientific and Technical Terms. So scientific law is
okay, it's not your Toastmasters tournament. I don't know if Toastmasters have tournaments. I assume everything's competitive, but it's not like Toastmasters in 1994. Guy, like, we don't just read definitions. That's kind of boring. Okay, cool. That's what a scientific law is. A regularity which applies to all members of a broad class of phenomena. Sure. Thermodynamics. We're going to get there. Oh my gosh, you guys. Thermo. Let's talk about some thermo.
With the evidence, it's irrational, and the theory should be thrown out in favor of one that harmonizes with the facts. In this session,
okay, just as a note on your presentation skills, Dr. Sideburns, we are 7 minutes and 37 seconds into a 32-minute video, right? That cannot be your introduction. You get one slide for your introduction from now on.
Laws of science to see what they have to say about naturalistic evolution. The first and second laws of thermodynamics. I think it'd be worth our time to carefully and systematically go through the implications of these 2 laws to make sure that the point is clearly understood. The scientific implications of these 2 laws alone give strong evidence against naturalistic evolution and for the existence of God. The principles of...
Also, note, just like priming us of what we're supposed to think about this, right? This is not, I'm going to present you with the evidence and we'll draw conclusions, unbiased conclusions together, right? No. This is just bias pouring it over our pancakes like syrup. I want pancakes.
Dynamics have been in existence since the creation of the universe.
Yes, right. That's the idea that thermo works the way it works, regardless if we understand it or not. By the way, I think that falls under the uniformitarianism that you were so upset about earlier. Good sir.
Engineering textbook says The word thermodynamics stems from two Greek words, therme, meaning heat.
Yeah, you guys, it's how heat
words
moves.
like
it's a thing.
Thermometer,
It's not that hard.
thermostat, thermos, from that word. So it describes the early thermodynamics refers more broadly to the science dealing with all aspects of energy and energy transformation.
Yep.
Stand back and
I just want my thermo. I just want thermo.
consider this question. Where could the universe have originally come from?
What did I miss?
What does it have to do with dealing with all aspects of energy and energy transformation?
Did I miss him?
What does it have to do with evolution and
Are you
the
not going to
origins
state the laws?
Well, stand back and consider this question.
Yeah.
Where could the universe have originally come from? What are all the possibilities? Let's think through that question without assuming anything, without assuming the existence of God. Let's just look at the evidence and reason through this. Let's make it a little more tangible. Let's say you move into a new home and you're looking through your new attic and you come across a stainless steel box, a cube, and it's completely sealed. In fact, you don't even see an opening to get into this box.
Welded.
And yet you shake it and realize that there's a ping pong ball in there. Again, there's no opening, there's no crack anywhere. How in the world did that ping pong ball get in there? What are the possibilities, even the unlikely ones? Well, maybe someone built the box around the ball somehow. Maybe
two halves of a metal box.
Put the ball in the box and sealed it so good that you can't even see the opening.
Hey, I know some very good welders.
There's actually a couple other options. Maybe no one put it in there. Maybe it created itself in the box, or it always existed in there.
So here's what he's priming you to think, right? This is what he's priming you to think about. The universe, in this analogy, right? The universe is the box and we are the ping pong ball. How do we possibly get here? Didn't someone have to put us there? Right? Hey, my dude, ping pong balls don't replicate. It's a thing. It's not a thing that they do. It just is, right? And there's not so much energy that you can like create hydrogen out of these natural processes. So like this analogy isn't good. This analogy is trying to get you to think about the universe in these very simple terms, when like, okay, but a ping pong ball isn't analogous to literally all matter in the universe, right? And a metal box is not analogous to the universe. It's not. The universe is not the container in which all things are. The universe is everything, right? So the universe is not contained. There's no box around us, right? The universe is the word that we use to say everything, right? Everything that exists and the potential, right? The energy, right? It's just everything. It's not a metal box. Okay.
Well, that's basically your option. There's basically three options, really, when you boil it all down.
Cool.
And the same options are available for the origin of the universe. How did it get here? Well, science can give us some insight into what happened. The creationists' answer to the question is, of course, that someone put the universe here. In the very first verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:1, box and put the ping pong perspective. From a thermodynamic perspective, we could describe the creation model this way. Imagine that box from your attic. Imagine that it's big enough to fit the entire universe in it. So the box is the exterior.
So again, there is no exterior boundary to the universe, right? So the box is part of the universe for this analogy to make any sense.
Boundary of the whole universe, the blast radius of the Big Bang, if you're a naturalist. Everything in the universe is in that box. It represents a closed system, if we're using thermodynamic terminology, which means nothing is going into the box because everything in the...
Okay, so a closed system in thermodynamics is no heat or energy or anything. There's no exchange of heat, energy, matter from the system to the outside. So no such thing, like when we're talking about thermodynamics and systems, think of an engine. That's really what thermodynamics is best at dealing with, are engines. And a perfect engine would be a closed system. In reality, there's always some loss, but often if we're thinking like theoretically or we're modeling things, whatever have you, it's helpful to think of closed systems. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So it'd be like your car engine, right? Your car engine moves your car, but it loses energy in, let's just say, 3 ways, 3 that I can come up with in 10 seconds or less. Friction of the road, right? So it loses energy by just having to overcome friction on the road. It's going to lose energy because of like, oh, hey, the car's got to fight against like wind resistance. And also the engine itself will lose energy because it gets hot, right? It releases heat, and that heat is no longer available to do the work of moving the car forward. So therefore that is an open system because it has loss, right? I think where he's going here is I don't know where he's going, because we have no reason to believe that the universe is not a closed system. We have never observed true energy like loss or creation, right? So like, I'm not quite sure where he's going. Let's find out.
The universe is already in the box and nothing is going out of the box because the boundary of our box is big enough to encompass everything in the universe. According to the creation model, before day 1, the box was empty. And God essentially opened that box, created the universe, put it in the box, and then closed it and sealed it so that nothing else could enter or leave the box. So the box...
By the way, by this argument, God can't intervene in the known universe, right? Like that's what he said. That's actually what he's arguing right now, even though I don't think he means to. Because if it is a true closed system and he closes the box, then, if it's a closed system, then nothing from the outside can come in. And by this analogy, God would be his thing on the outside. So he's actually like drawing conclusions I don't think he means to be.
Has remained closed since then, except at those times when God engaged in miraculous activity. That is,
excuse me. The box stays closed unless God. That's a use. Okay, but it's this, right? Anytime he has an argument where it's like, but God did this, just replace it with magic. If you can replace it with Gandalf, right? Or whoever your favorite wizard is, Rainswind, then, right, it's not a good argument. It's kind of like I was saying with like the creation myth thing earlier. It was like, they think us fools for believing in this. Like, but you would say the same thing about someone with the Enuma Elish. I really hope that's the name of the Sumerian creation myth. I'm going to be so embarrassed if it's not. And so like, it's a closed system, except when there's magic involved, is not a basis by which we can build cars, right? That's not. Strange women handing out swords from lakes is not a basis for a system of governance. And neither is what works like this unless there's magic is not a good basis for our understanding of the universe, my dude.
It's on hold and allowed God to do something that was not natural, something that was above nature or supernatural.
What else have we got?
So that's the creation model. Steady state Big Bang theory claims that all of the matter and energy of the universe was originally crammed into an extremely hot, dense sphere.
The whole universe was in a hot, dense state.
Size of a period on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. The cosmic egg, or as they call it, the ilum. And then that tiny sphere supposedly exploded.
Okay, so there's a misnomer there. So let's talk a little bit about some of this misnomer. This is definitely like a colloquial understanding of the Big Bang. But the word explosion there is very misleading. So the idea is this, and this is how we know it, right? It has to do with background radiation. So background microwave. I have got a video on this on my channel somewhere. How do we know how old the universe is? So this, right? We can observe that we here on our pale blue dot are moving away from everything, literally everything we can point a telescope at. And not only that, but like So if we're here and there's a thing over here and a thing over here, right? We are moving away from both of those as both of those guys are moving away from each other. Everything in the universe is moving away. So presumably we used to be closer. And before that we were closer, before that we were closer, right? And you backtrack that, and there's more evidence for this, right? There's more things, but that's kind of the basic idea. You backtrack that until, well, everything is infinitesimally close together. And here's the main point here. You and I and science humans can't know about what was going on before that point because our concept of time started then, right? And we can, and any evidence of what was going on before that would have been erased by the process of the Big Bang itself, right? So we don't have any way to measure or observe what went on before, at least not that we know of right now, right? And I mean, I hope I'm proved wrong at some point. That would be very cool, right? But based on our current understanding of how the universe works, that's it. Also, just a note that at that point, at those temperatures and pressures, there would have been no matter. Everything would have been just energy. And that state, high intensity, temperature, and pressure is very unstable. So it's not going to stay in that state for very long. So an explosion paints a nice picture in our heads of this rapid expansion, but it is a rapid expansion and not an explosion in the colloquial sense. Nothing blew up. That state became unstable and new things started happening. So we started making some of that energy started turning into mass. We started making some we made subatomic particles. We made some hydrogen. We might have made a very, very little bit of helium, but it was hydrogen is what we made. And then again, other subatomic particles and energy, and echoes of that energy, you can be picked up by the right type of radio satellite these days. So this is well known and well studied. It's and no magic required, right?
Big Bang, and then expansion occurred over time until we have the universe as it is today. The problem is,
and we're still expanding, right? That motion is still happening.
That even if you believe in the Big Bang theory, it still doesn't explain where that little sphere could have even come from.
And that's fair. That is true. As far as we can tell, energy is eternal, right? There's no one has ever observed energy being created or destroyed, right? In the example of the car, energy produced by the car, right? Well, how does that work, right? Well, we take a chemical, right? We take gasoline, which has the potential to become kinetic energy, right? And thermal energy. So think of it as chemical potential energy, and we burn it. So we add some thermal energy, but we didn't make that thermal energy out of magic, right? We got it from somewhere. Energy is always just, I'm going to take something from over here and put it over there where I can use it. Nuclear is a great example. I'm going to take some of the mass of this atom and E = mc squared it to turn that mass into energy. Then I'm going to use that energy to heat stuff up. Usually nuclear plants are they're steam plants, right? So we're going to heat up. We use the heat produced by taking mass, turning it into thermal energy. We're going to use that thermal energy to boil some water, and we're going to use the steam we just made to physically move some stuff. So we took mass, converted it into actually electromagnetic energy. We used that electromagnetic energy, turned that into thermal energy. We took that thermal energy and turned it into mechanical energy, spun some turbines, in a generator, right? So we spun a magnet around some wires or the other way around, however you designed your generator. And now we made electrical energy. But at no point in time did we grab energy out of nowhere, right? We just took a type from this and we origamied it into another type, then we origamied it into another type. Right? We're just changing types. We're never creating energy and we're never destroying it, right? Again, we're just changing the type of energy. That's all we're doing. So where did the dot come from? Like, decent question, but like, how do you propose we figure that out, right? Yeah, how do you propose we figure that out, my dude? And not knowing isn't like, that's the God of the gaps, right? It's the, oh, well, we don't know, so therefore God, right? That's not, just because we don't know doesn't mean the answer is magic, right? Again, if you can, in my opinion, if you can replace like, well, we don't know, so therefore it must have been God with, well, we don't know, so therefore it must have been Gandalf. That's not a good argument. And that's not like, I don't even think that's a healthy faith position. Like,
The little ball that blew up, where did it come from?
Didn't blow up, it expanded rapidly.
Even if we were to grant that the Big Bang actually happened, which I don't, but for the sake of argument, let's say we grant the Big Bang.
Love it.
Where could the ball have come from? The Big Bang Theory doesn't answer that question. It doesn't tell us how the ball got into the box in your...
It doesn't, and it's not supposed to, right? I don't get mad when I go to my atmospheric science book here and it doesn't tell me how to make bread, right? It's not designed to do that. We don't get mad at our cars because they can't, well, we might get mad at our cars because they can't fly. That would be very cool. But realistically, like, we don't get mad that we can't take a plane to work or drive a car to Switzerland if you live in America. My book is going to fall out of the shelf, so it's just going to live, it's going to live here now. It does not disprove the Big Bang Theory that the Big Bang Theory cannot describe a process it was not intended to describe, right?
Evolutionist Alan Guth is a cosmologist and physics professor at MIT. He admitted this very point, recognizing that the Big Bang attempts to explain why...
That's not a gotcha, right? It's not.
The universe appears to be expanding or inflating, but still doesn't explain where the little universe ball originally came from. He said, quote, "Inflation itself takes a very small universe and produces from it a very big universe, but inflation..."
Again, this is what we just said. It's not, this doesn't matter. All right. Can we go forward?
A proposal that the universe was created from empty space is no more fundamental than a proposal that the universe was spawned.
Yeah, this is fine. Respecting the origin of the universe, 3 verbally intelligent suppositions may be made. We may assert that it is self-existent, or that it is self-created, or that it is created by an external agency. Okay, so this is saying that, like, how did the Big Bang start? Where did the little period of energy come from? Either time has no meaning. It always existed. It somehow created itself, or was created by a third party. All right, that's wasn't created itself, created by something else. Like, that's really, yeah, that's fair. Okay, what do we got? So someone put it there, no one put it there, it put itself there. Cool. Well, let's not quote Sherlock Holmes. I feel like that's disrespectful to Mr. Arthur Conan Doyle.
To be impossible scientifically. That is, they violate the laws of science. Then the other alternative must be the case. Now, if you choose the atheist route, the naturalist, then obviously you eliminate the creator option from the table. And you're...
My dude. My guy. Okay. Please explain to me what experiment I could run that would demonstrate the existence of a deity, right? Please explain that to me. Right, like, because even the way you're talking about earlier with like the box and the miracles, then that's implying that the only way that God interacts with the universe is magic, right? Is with like not like phenomena that cannot be explained naturally or by science. So like explain that, please explain this to me. Explain this
Only
to me.
two possibilities for the origin of the universe.
Sure.
And in order to attempt to be rational, the atheist has to believe in one of these possibilities. In other words,
but we don't, right? Here's the thing, I don't have to believe in anything, and I can say it's a perfectly legitimate thing to say I don't know, right? There isn't evidence to support a conclusion as to the origin, like the actual origin point of the universe. That is a perfectly rational, reasonable answer, and is most often the best answer, right? I don't know is a great turn of phrase. I strongly recommend you get comfortable with it. PhD sideburns.
Self-creation of the universe, or the
Are we going to get to
generation option,
thermodynamics?
that is, that matter could spontaneously
I'd like to point out he's yet to state the laws of thermodynamics.
just pop into existence on its own from nothing. Then in a thermodynamic sense, you believe that that original box in your attic was initially completely empty. Let's zoom inside of the box here.
How is this a thermodynamic sense?
So the box is empty. We're in the box. The spontaneous
So it, oh my gosh.
generation model, you could stand around inside of that box, just stare. Something could just appear. Not only all of the mass and energy of the entire universe just popped in. Actually, given enough time, the universe expands, life comes into existence and gradually evolves over time. And finally, you accidentally. Willard Young explained the first law of thermodynamics correctly when he.
I'm so proud of you, PhD sideburns. That is the correct first law of thermodynamics. You didn't confuse energy with matter. That is beautiful.
Describing it, that energy can be neither created nor destroyed, but can only be converted from one form to another. And he's right. No argument there. That's what the first law states.
Beautiful.
We observe from studying nature that energy can be neither created nor destroyed, but can only be converted from one form to another. The law is also known as the law of conservation of matter and energy.
Nope.
What does that mean, practically speaking?
Nope. Matter we can destroy all day long. That is how nuclear things work. Anyway, just be careful. I'm very proud of him, though, that he at least stated the first law correctly.
Think about a wood log.
Why?
You ever
I don't want to.
All of what the log started out at will change into other forms. While
yep. We've explained this. We've talked about this. You guys are with
using
me.
More technical terminology.
Love it.
The first law of thermodynamics says that in a closed system,
in a closed system where there's no energy coming into or leaving the system, the amount of energy within the boundaries of that system will remain constant. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think where he's going to go with this is like, if the universe is a closed system, how did the energy get there in the first place, right? And I don't know, but we don't need magic. Energy may be eternal, right? We have little monkey brains. We don't necessarily fully understand the nature of time, right? Strongly recommend you get comfortable with that, my dude.
Box that contains the universe, where there's no energy coming into the system.
Yep. That's
so as this chart shows, the amount of energy present before a
Ooh, yes, energy in has to equal energy out in a like perfectly closed system.
In our case, the universe popping into a present process.
So this is if there was no energy in the box to start with, then how can there be energy in the box now? Yeah. I'm just gonna energy may be eternal, or I know there's some theory of string theory. So you get like quantum vibrations between like strings that can just spontaneously produce matter. It may have something to do with like how many dimensions is the universe versus how many dimensions do you and I experience. The universe is real complicated, right? A box isn't going to cut it.
With nothing in the universe before the appearance of the cosmic egg, no energy is going to be able to create itself to give birth to the cosmic.
He's making the assumption that before is a reasonable concept talking about the Big Bang, right?
Nothing pops into it.
And actually what kind of drives me nuts about this, I'm sorry, that was like a stutter stop there, is he would argue that God exists outside of time, therefore God is eternal, right? So, like, I could ask him, like, God created the universe, but what created God? Right. And we would get in a very boring philosophical loop, right? Where we back up to has to be God, has to be eternal, not behaving to the like laws, right? So like he will get to the same place I get to, which is like, maybe energy's eternal, right? But just say like, maybe God's eternal, right? Like, right? So all of these arguments of like, well, if God, because we could make the same argument, like, well, if God created the universe, who created God? And again, that gets into what I consider not very interesting philosophical conversations. So I don't really want to have them. But let's see how this violates thermodynamics.
In other words, it doesn't matter how long you stare into an empty space, a pew isn't going to just pop into existence.
Pew pew!
And it certainly isn't going to come to life and start walking around. It doesn't matter how much time you wait for that to happen. Nothing's going to pop into existence from nothing. Not an atom, a tree, a small sphere containing all of the energy, the entire universe. It's not going to happen. According to the first law of thermodynamics, which, remember, has no known exceptions. There's never been an exception to the law witnessed. So by implication, it would be unscientific. It would go against the laws of science.
So it would go against the law of science to say that like energy is created, and the Big Bang doesn't require the energy to be created. It requires that it sort of already exists. Yeah, I don't. So like the Big Bang theory doesn't violate the law of thermodynamics. We don't know how it started. We don't know what came before the Big Bang. I don't know how to test for that. If you do, please go win a Nobel, right? But again, not knowing isn't the same as the only possible way is if thermodynamics didn't work the same, not the same, not the same.
To believe that matter could have come into being in such a way that the first law of thermodynamics was violated.
It's not
according
what we
to the
think.
First law. The only way matter can appear inside of that box.
Okay. Blah 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 blah. Nope.
Atheist Victor Stenger, who's an evolutionary particle physicist and professor at the University of Colorado, he's a believer in the idea of spontaneous generation, but
no, he's not. No, he's not. Spontaneous generation is a very, very old debunked theory of biology that thought that like little animal critters just spontaneously would come out of dead flesh because people observed maggots coming out of dead like carcasses and didn't observe the flies go there. But then Louis Pasteur actually was like, no, it was flies. Here's an experiment. Because if you put that carcass in a sealed, I think that's what he did. I think he put the carcass in a sealed container and turns out no maggots. So spontaneous generation was the idea that like life spontaneously generated from dead things, which is a weird theory. So I don't know what he meant there when he said this real life professor believes in spontaneous generation, but he was at best grossly misrepresented.
They came out and said, quote, I must admit that there are yet no empirical or observational tests that.
Yeah, is this your whole argument here is God of the gaps?
Part of the naturalist's own definition of science includes the ability to observe and test a theory,
which we can observe. Big Bang, right? That's like we came to that by observation, and the model predicted by Big Bang theory, right? It is like holds up by the current behavior of like solar systems and things like that. It would be great if we could observe and test what happened before the Big Bang. But again, I don't know how to do that. If you do, go get that Nobel. What do we got? What do we got?
Generation of matter is a genuine blind faith. True Christianity is built on faith, yes. But as I said in the previous...
True Christianity is built on faith, but not blind faith. That's for suckers.
Session. It certainly isn't blind. There's abundant evidence to support it. The trust we have in the Christian system is based on evidence, not a blind leap into the dark. But according to atheists themselves, there's no evidence to support the spontaneous generation of matter. Now consider, if there's no scientific evidence for it,
dude,
how can this idea be considered to be scientific? There's no way to test it. It's a leap into the as an option for the origin of the universe. Famous evolutionary astronomer Robert Jastrow was the founder and former director of the Goddard Institute for Space Studies at NASA. And he said, quote, but the creation of matter...
I've worked there for a summer. That was super fun. Goddard is awesome. It's where a lot of very cool space science happens. Yeah, I don't know. Why are you so concerned with the we don't know, my guy? Like, if is that all we're gonna do? Are we gonna get to the second law? Maybe. I'll just fast forward you a whole lot. Okay, maybe scientific laws. All right. That's not. I thought we were gonna. The second law of thermodynamics rests on experimental evidence. Okay, cool. We're getting to the second law. So the second law of thermodynamics is going to say that, like, okay, it's going to use the word entropy. Entropy is a way to measure the amount of energy in a system that is not available to do work. And the entropy of a system always increases. Okay, so what does that mean in like plain English? Let's go back to your car. The energy, the heat that comes off your engine block, that is energy, right? It took energy to heat up that air. That is energy. That energy isn't being used to propel your car forward. So if you measured how much energy was spent heating up that air, you would be measuring the entropy of the system. All entropy is saying, all the second law of thermodynamics says is that there does not exist a perfect engine, right? There is no engine where all of the energy in equals like work out. So as my freshman in college chemistry teacher used to say, yeah, I got nervous when he said this, but I like it. Thermodynamics is like women. You can't win, you can't break even, and you can't stop playing the game. So the second law is you can't break even. You can't make a perfectly efficient engine. Anytime you try to do work, you lose some energy. That's it. And by lose, I mean it's converted to a form of energy not available to do work. Not lost forever. He's probably going to say something about it's measuring the chaos of the system, which I don't think is a very good way to explain it. Let's see what he says.
Experiment that has been conducted, either directly or indirectly, verifies the second law.
Cool.
And no experiment has ever been conducted. Immutable, they are unbreakable. So it's from nothing, it means it. But notice, the creation model does mass energy. Nothing's going to pop into existence from nothing.
Unless magic.
It will not be created on its own. Believe a system that did not originally have that energy is if it is deposited there from something outside of that system. In other words, the universal box, which contains everything from the natural universe, would have to
okay, there's thermodynamics second law.
Energy. This is known as entropy. And the process is irreversible. Now, what this means, practically speaking, is that everything is wearing out. It's deteriorating. It's decaying. It's moving towards a state of
maybe.
Order or chaos. And we can slow the process with work, but we can't stop it.
I told you he was going to relate it to chaos. Everything's becoming more disorderly. Like, what does that mean? Look, okay, that heat that comes off your engine block, right? That goes and that's going to maybe heat up the atmosphere right above it. Maybe that makes some water condense. Maybe that like feeds a cloud and then that water comes back down, right? Like, it's just... I mean, yes, eventually we will get to the heat death of the universe several billion years from now, right? Don't worry, my dude. Like, we're all going to be dead. It's fine. Like, the universe, it's fine.
Which is running down. We're running out of usable energy. Nothing lasts forever. And you can see this idea everywhere. Car doesn't get nicer over time, does it? It deteriorates.
Not a good analogy. Not a good analogy. Because that's saying that like, the universe is like breaking down. Look, our sun wouldn't exist if other stars hadn't come before it, formed, lived, died, and exploded, right? Like we're running out of you, right? Like, so the first stars that formed were like almost exclusively hydrogen burning, but hydrogen burning stars will make heavier elements. Our star has like helium and like lithium and heavier elements inside of it, and it's making even heavier ones, and that's really cool. But like not only would our star not exist, but like we wouldn't exist without other stars having like lived their life and like made carbon and you know what us squishy little humans are made of. That wasn't made in the Big Bang. Those were made in the hearts of stars. So like everything's deteriorating. I don't know, dude. I think it's just kind of part of the beautiful natural cycle of like destruction and creation and life and death and yeah, if you want to talk about the human experience, there's some stuff to talk about. Not like getting depressed and showing me pictures of sad trucks rusting out. Like, ugh, come on.
It rusts, it falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Your room doesn't.
The universe is not falling apart. And I mean, my room never looked like that. My mother would have killed me, right? Like, come on.
But the second law prohibits it. Is a house's paint job going to get nicer over time? Of course not. It's
not the same thing, my dude. Right? Again, second law is about how much energy is available to do work. That's all it's about. That's all it's about, my dude. It's not like an existential crisis like you're making it. Like, I kind of want to give him a hug, a socially distanced hug, but this was recorded in the before times.
First law, the second law has never been broken. It has no exceptions. A prominent engineering thermal science tech.
And it's true that like our universe isn't going to last forever. Forever is, but it's going to last a real long time. And it wouldn't last forever even if like I don't understand this point, because it's also like a divinely created universe would also have this problem, right? So what's his point? What's like, why is this not a thing from the Big Bang? Like, why is this an argument?
Book says, quote, to date, no experiment has been conducted.
Right, dude, I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Like, the laws of thermodynamics are laws for a reason. They're pretty robust.
Second law of thermodynamics, if the universe is
if the universe is infinitely old, we shouldn't have any usable energy left. Okay. I don't think there's a claim that the universe is infinitely old. And what do we mean by usable energy, right? So there's one model. It's not consensus, and I probably shouldn't even bring. Never mind. I'm not going to bring it up because I don't know the consensus rule, and that's not my field. So, we're not like Big Bang Theory doesn't propose that the universe as we know it is eternal or infinitely old. Like, no, we have a start day, right? About 14 billion years ago. That energy maybe we don't know how that got there, but that's not a claim that like the universe in its current state is infinitely old. So this is kind of a moot point. I'm not sure what he's trying to get at here. Let's skip forward a little bit. I don't really want to be preached at. And concurrently, there was a great deal of discussion about the fact that the second law of thermodynamics applied to the cosmos indicates that the universe is running down like a clock. If it is running down, there must have been a time when it was fully wound up. Big Bang, yay! Modern science denies an eternal existence of the universe. So I think that that's definitely true. I think he would try to spin it maybe, but like this is true in the sense that stars and planets and like the motion of the universe, which we can observe and measure, that's not eternal. Definitely not. Yeah. I like how he's not touching on, we've yet to see a process that can destroy energy, right? So please explain to me then how energy didn't used to be there. Yeah. Now, 3 lines of evidence: the motions of the galaxies, laws of thermodynamics, and the life story of the stars pointed to one conclusion: the universe had a beginning. Yeah, like that's big. That's what the Big Bang Theory says. It has a beginning. So I'm not quite sure. That doesn't point to a magical beginning, right? But like the universe as we understand it began, right? Okay.
Kitty Ferguson is an award-winning science writer and evolutionist. She agreed. She said, it's also common knowledge that the universe isn't eternal, but had a beginning.
Right. So what's your point?
So many in the evolutionary circles realize the universe had to have a beginning.
Doesn't mean it had a magical beginning.
But the skeptic replies, yeah, but couldn't there have been an exception to the laws of thermodynamics at some...
No. Who is saying this, good sir? Who are you talking to at an airport? Right? And that's why I assume this conversation happened, right? Like at an airport bar. I don't know.
In the past? Well, again, according to the definition of a scientific law, there are no exceptions to laws. The evidence always stands against them. The laws of thermodynamics don't have exceptions. They are the fixed, unvarying...
Except when there's miracles, right? That's your exception? That's the exception you brought up earlier with your box? Yeah.
From the scientific evidence. To claim that there are some unknown exceptions
not claiming
would be
that.
to claim something that goes against the laws of thermodynamics are firmly...
Sure.
Is a design...
I feel like he's going through a lot of trouble to convince me that thermodynamics are real. Perpetual motion machines can't exist. That would be a perfect machine that would violate the second law of thermodynamics, where you can't break even, right? Can't win, can't break even. So you can't get energy for nothing, and you can't, you can't break even. Cool.
Attempts to violate either the first or second law of thermodynamics, a machine that tries to find an exception to the laws. Numerous attempts have been made over the years to...
And numerous attempts were made to use alchemy to turn lead into gold, or so anime has led me to believe.
Find such a machine, all without success. If
no,
a person could make such a machine, they would be rich. But such machines
solve energy crises.
Impossible. Even the government of the United States,
okay, cool.
Declared that they would no longer accept patent applications
for perpetual
these
motion.
Impossible devices. They recognized the attempts as pointless.
Yep.
But as Philip Yam, writing in Scientific American, said, claims for
perpetual motion machines and other free energy devices, but it doesn't exist. It's fine. I'm not sure what we're talking about this. How is this related?
Being able to last forever in defiance of the second law of thermodynamics is unscientific. No matter how much...
And no one is claiming that the universe does that, my dude. Like, what is your argument? I don't understand.
The person uses to confuse the issue and throw dirt in the air. Believing in such theories amounts to irrationally drawing conclusions, not the idea that nothing lasts forever. But notice again that the biblical creation model is in harmony with the second law of thermodynamics.
Sure, except that, like, it began by magic instead of it just began. I don't understand your point. I don't understand how this is an argument.
The creation model predicts decay and a gradual loss of usable energy, as the second law states. According to the creation...
Actually, it really doesn't. It doesn't. Not if you read, right, the Genesis 1, Genesis 1:1, it's a really lovely poem, right? Very ancient Near Eastern-y thing. And in the 6 days, so we start with like the chaos and disorder of the dark waters. And then like Yahweh comes in, or Elohim, sorry, the name used here is Elohim, not Yahweh, that's later. And separates the waters above from the waters below. No, sorry, separates light from dark, right? Then separates the waters above from the waters below, so makes like sky and ocean, and then separates the land from the water. And then we fill the places that we just made, right? So that's a story of creating order, right? Of taking things which are chaotic and bringing order. And there's a lot of really lovely theology, to wear a different hat for half a minute. I am not a theologian, but it definitely comes in like Jewish theology, and it's bled some into Christianity, I think, that talks about the idea that like God rests on the seventh day because he gives the job of like being a steward, of caring for the creation, of bringing order where there is chaos, right? So to people, to the people that so like. And then anyway, so it's if you, the creation story is a story, the biblical creation story is a story of starting from chaos and disorder and bringing order, not starting with perfection and everything declining, which is what he's saying. So like, I mean, my guy, your point isn't even backed up theologically. Like,
Well, the universe will not last forever. It will grow old and deteriorate. Hebrews 1, verses 10 through 12. You, Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens
fine.
Armament.
And why does that not work with his like, what in the Big Bang understanding, what in like modern science's basic understanding of how the universe works would violate thermodynamics? He hasn't said that. He just said that like it does. He just made a claim without supporting it. Like, this isn't even a good argument.
Not fail.
Yeah, that's fine.
Spontaneous generation,
okay.
Eternality, creation.
Nope.
Second, by definition, the laws of science have no exceptions.
I'll agree with that.
Number 3, the laws of science prohibit the evolutionary possibility.
Did not demonstrate that. Like, that point was not demonstrated, that the laws of science prohibit the evolutionary possibilities for the origin of the universe. Disagree. You did not demonstrate that point, good sir.
Abilities for the origin of the universe. Finally, the creation model doesn't. It's in perfect harmony with the laws of science and even predicts their effects.
How?
The conclusion? The creation model is the scientific choice, since it harmonizes.
Because the creation model requires magic, right? How to beginning is not the same as began by magic. Not the same. Not the same. No Gandalf required.
Scientific evidence.
All right, we're done. We're done with Captain Sideburns for today. Let's find out how long this was, and I'll edit out the part where I showed you guys my email and then post this on my channel. Please do comment if you guys want to see more of this. Here, I'll stop sharing. You can just see my lovely face and I'll turn back into a unicorn. Yeah, if you guys want to see me, maybe I'll try to find some more science-y claims rather than just PhD sideburns there, kind of just saying words and asserting things. Love to debunk stuff for you, but there wasn't much substance there. There wasn't much to chew on, if you will. But all right, team, I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna go get some snacks. I'll see you later. Bye.